When you have a spiritual awakening, you'll start to notice that you have spiritual gifts. Now, we're all likely born with these. Some of us actually remember them and have them our whole lives, and others go through our whole lives and don't even know it. And then, if you have an awakening, it can actually connect you to your spiritual gifts. When I first had my awakening, in fact, let's go back a bit. So, in around about October, the year before my awakening, I had been watching the news and there was all this stuff about, the drones, orbs, and things that had been going on in America, New Jersey specifically. And I didn't pay too much attention to it, but then I had watched this thing and it was talking about remote viewing. And I remember thinking at the dinner table, I don't necessarily want to be able to remote view, but I remember thinking, I wish I had something. Like, why do some people have something that's like kind of spiritual or, this unique gift, and I don't? And you don't actually need something like that because we have so many talents that don't necessarily need to be linked to spiritual stuff. Like, people are really good with communication, or people are great at empathy, so being really kind to people, and so they do charity work and things. There's so many like different wonderful things out there. People who are good with animals that work at zoos and things. Like, you don't have to specifically have what one would stereotypically describe as a spiritual gift. Like, there's so many things that we already have that are fantastic. But I had this thought of, I wish I had that, but never actually expected something to happen. I don't know if that was part of the reason that I had my spontaneous awakening, was that not only had I set an intention that I wanted to be healthier in the following year to come, but I also had this kind of inside feeling if I was looking for that something extra special. And so my awakening happened, and at the same time as my awakening, I had this spontaneous attunement to what I call Reiki, because to me it felt like Reiki, and now I am attuned to Reiki. But it's hard sometimes to differentiate the two because they were happening at the same time. So things like when I was having my awakening, I had really clammy hands for about a week or two, and nothing I could do would make it stop. And I think that part was maybe linked more to the spontaneous attunement of Reiki rather than the spiritual awakening. But I do believe they're both connected, so I can't say for sure because that might be a symptom for other people too. And a lot of people that do have a spiritual awakening do actually connect to healing energy. And it's probably one of the more common ones, perhaps, or one of the ones that, like, we all have it. And like, even when we, if you hurt yourself or someone hurts themselves, you naturally want to put your hand over it. Like, if someone's got a headache, like, put your hand over it. So it's natural that we all do this. We all have that healing energy. It's just connecting to it to make it even stronger. So with this gift that I had, the spiritual gift of connecting to my natural healing energy, within the first month, I went to the doctors, but nothing to do with that. It was just a general checkup. And I remember sitting in the waiting room, and there was about 2 other people in there. So one was off to the corner, one was off to that side, and I sat at the end of a row facing the door so that I could see when the doctor was going to be coming and calling for me. It was really quiet. It's quite a big room. And then a young girl, maybe in her mid-20s, and a guy, her partner, came, and so she signed in on the machine, came into the room, and now there's a lot of seats all over, and there's plenty of space in between. But she sat directly behind me, like right behind me. And I'm like, why? There's all these seats, and that one's not even facing the door. Why would you sit directly behind me? Like, regardless of an awakening or not, that's strange. Like, I would have been uncomfortable with that regardless. But I remember sitting there thinking, oh, something feels off. And when she'd gone to sit round behind me, she was really close, like touching me nearly close. And like her partner sat next to her as well. I'm like, does he not think it's strange that she sat directly behind me like that? And when I was sitting there waiting, I remember starting to get the kriyas, so the breathing and the energy coming, and I started to feel like my hands heat up, and it was like the Reiki, the healing energy was going spontaneously from me without my intention to the lady sitting behind me. So my belief in what happened was that she's maybe going through a hard time, had been drawn to sitting behind me because maybe subconsciously she could feel that there's kind of a healing thing going on, and that by sitting behind me, my subconscious or my higher self or Reiki itself noticed that she needed that, and so it went to her. And since I've been attuned to master level Reiki, like they teach us that when you reach master level, your energy does naturally go out, not your energy, but the Reiki energy naturally goes out to people around you that need it without your intention. If their subconscious wants it, it will go to them. But I've noticed that, I mean, that was a while ago now, but I've noticed that if that is the case, I don't necessarily feel that. I feel Reiki strongly during giving Reiki in like sessions, but being out and about, like I don't get it as strong now. But in those initial days of when it was happening, it's like you could feel every single part of it. Like you could feel it going to someone. And that was the first time that I had experienced that. And it was interesting, but luckily I got called from the doctor just moments after that, because like I was a bit uncomfortable. It wasn't sore, nothing bad was happening. It was just I don't really like people sitting that close behind me regardless of awakening or not. And so I just kind of wanted to leave that situation. um but it really does awaken our gifts. We all have different ones, and like I was saying earlier in this video, is that one of the most common ones is likely healing energy. But there are other things, like you could become more connected to mediumship, where you can see, hear, speak to spirits. I have, I would say, picked up some of that where I can feel like cold air around me, or like sometimes I get this like feeling that something's behind me, but I wouldn't say that like I can see them or necessarily speak to spirits. My spirit guides, yes, but like spirits in general, no. That's not something that I would necessarily want, but I know that some people out there would like that experience. So mediumship is one of them, and then you could maybe perhaps go into tarot reading or like actual mediumship readings where you can connect to spirits for people and help them if they've had like a loss and things, in which could be a wonderful thing to be able to offer someone. Other spiritual gifts could be being able to communicate more with animals or more empathy, so be able to understand people more, which you could then lead into like psychology and like therapy, things like that, to be able to help others. I am saying the word help because I do feel that once you've had a spiritual awakening, it's like you have this calling to help people more, you know, with help yourself as well, help family, friends, but it's also this feeling of that you want to help other people too. And it doesn't need to be that you help the entire world. It could be helping just one single person. You might go into teaching, teaching other people spiritual mentorship and things like that. Also, maybe you would end up with a spiritual gift of something a bit more out there, so remote viewing, which is what I was talking about at the start of the video. Perhaps bringing UFOs down. I don't know. I don't look into that side of things too much. But there's so many different spiritual gifts. Like I've not even touched on it. That is just a small, tiny fraction of the things that we may be able to do. I mean, some people end up telepathic or can do telekinesis or just so many different things. And I'm really wondering what your spiritual gifts are, if you have them now, if you had them when you were younger but perhaps lost them, or you haven't got them yet but you're hoping to. So one thing that you can do is you don't necessarily need to have a spiritual awakening to start connecting to your gifts. For example, if you feel called to Reiki, to healing energy, like you can go and get attuned and connect with that spiritual part of yourself. And then it does take longer perhaps. Like for me, it happened spontaneously and quickly, and I had all of the knowledge and skills. Like I don't even know how I was doing it. It was like I just thought healing energy and it just happened. But there are ways to connect to your spiritual gifts, but it's more gradual and over time. Whereas if you have an actual spiritual awakening, it's like you clear out your energy centers, and then it allows you to connect to your spirit directly. And then so you're connecting with the gifts that you were born with and that you brought into this world with you. So you have many options out there, and if you do decide that you would like a spiritual awakening, I do offer Hara Reiki, which is designed the way that I had my spontaneous awakening, where you focus on the Hara, which is where in Japanese culture they believe that our spirit is, and where I believe that our spirit is, our spirit energy. And that when we have an awakening, it rises from there. That's where I had mine. And then we clear your heart and your third eye chakra. And that allows you to connect with your spirit and have a spiritual awakening. And in my program, I also offer the connection together. Like I am there for you over the 3 months that we work on this and teach you about and guide you with what to expect with your awakening and what to do when you're dealing with the more difficult side of things, like removing the habits and things that aren't good for you. But yeah, so reach out if you are interested in spiritual awakening and you're curious to know what your spiritual gifts are. I'm really curious to hear it as well. I hope you have a lovely rest of the day, and I will catch you on the next video. Thank you.